And so we begin the elephant's head. For some people, this is the most stressful part of this project, mostly because you have to carve a giant hole into your creature at this point in order to make this work. And the reason we do that is because if this head is going to be hollow, which it must be in order to dry adequately, if we have a bubble in the middle of that, that's what we call a problem, because you would try to fire that and it would explode. Instead, what we need to do is make one chamber. Instead of a bubble in the body and a bubble in the head, we have to make one continuous bubble by carving a hole into the body that connects to the bubble in the head. So you have one solid chamber of airflow. You're going to start with a certain amount of clay and you're going to wedge it a little bit and roll it into a ball. This shouldn't be too big, but it's always easier to take off some clay rather than add it in later. And then you're just going to make a pinch pot. Now the difference with this one is that we're not making a half circle and we're not making a flat bottomed pot. We're going to make something that is almost a whole circle, and I'm going to squeeze it around that top part and kind of aim it inward. This should almost be circular. Those edges should angle back in. Make sure that the walls are relatively thick, not too thick, and then really wrap your fingers around and squeeze that top rim to angle it inward so that it curves. So once you have that, we have to figure out where this is going to go. Now decide which side of your elephant is the front end. That's really up to you. Kind of depends. If you need to adjust your legs, you can re-angle your toes, but what we're not going to do is stick it right to the front. Not good. So instead, we need to angle it up a little bit, just so it looks like he's holding his head up high. You don't want it to be too high and on top, but you want it to be relatively angled. And then once you have it, you're just going to set it there and trace that outside edge very lightly. This is just a little guide for us. Make sure that it's centered, make sure that it's in the middle of the body. My circle is a little bit off, but I compensate for that in a minute. Now you're going to take your knife and do the most stressful part. You're going to carve into this circle. Now we're not doing it to the edge of the circle we just traced. The circle that we carve has to be significantly smaller because the opening to our head is smaller than the outside edge itself. There should be enough space to fit at least a solid finger in there, just to get some airflow. Make sure that it covers all sides. And then what do we do when we attach anything? We slip and score. Really get all of the sides, all of the little bits around it, and then get the top of that just like we have been doing. Now again, this is going to create one solid chamber of air within our elephant, and later, once we're done, we're going to drill a hole in the bottom that will release the air from that singular chamber inside that travels through the head and the body. That way air can pass freely and it won't shatter into 5,000 pieces when you fire it. So once you have that slipped and scored, you're going to line it up and then press and twist a little bit, pretty firmly. Don't overshoot it. If you kind of bend it out of shape, that's okay, because that doesn't matter. Again, yucky stages. So once that's been slipped and scored, you're going to take the back of your needle tool and you're going to begin to blend, and be pretty generous with this. Depending on how hard your elephant body is, this might be a little tougher, it might be a little easier, so beware. But make sure that you're blending from both sides, really zip it up. Okay, so once it's blended, I'm going to use the flat side of my needle tool to kind of smooth it out into the body. You should have a little depressed ring to represent the elephant's neck at this point. You can either kind of deepen that or leave it as flush as you'd like. Really blend it into the body so it looks seamless. If you have any seams at all anywhere, or any creases, any corners, that's a problem. Smooth them out. So once you have that kind of in place, we're going to take another wooden paddle and we're going to compact it just a bit more. If your head is too big, this is a good chance for you to make it a bit smaller. You can also just shape it gently into a round little bulb. And smooth that out again. Once the head is paddled roundish, we need to give it 2 cheeks that are flat, kind of like we did with the body when attaching the legs. We need to make 2 flat angled planes that almost meet in the middle at a point, but not quite. You need to leave at least, I don't know, centimeter, quarter inch of space in between those 2 cheeks. It's kind of hard to see in my video, but you kind of see that flat section that goes all the way down. I'm going to strangle him a bit just to give him a bit more of a neck. That front part, that little curved V in between the elephant's cheeks, we're going to be attaching the trunk there in our next video. Once you have that, he'll have like a little nose shape. And we're good to go for the next part of the project.